What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my DraftKings Showdown breakdown for the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when it goes live. You know I love the likes. You know I love the subs now, too. Two very important things for me. Follow me on Twitter, @Josh Engleman, so you can get updates to the sim results as we get closer to lock. I'll be posting my updates around 7 p.m. Eastern time, so stay tuned for that. And finally, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite options at captain and at utility for tonight's game? Some of the high-level information for today. Average fantasy points of the optimal lineup, 143.4. Median salary used, $49,200. 3.3 Carolina Panthers, 2.7 Falcons in the optimal lineup. Panthers currently 2-point favorites at home with a 51-point total. I do want to give one quick caveat before we dive into the captains. I am assuming Christian McCaffrey does not play. He is questionable as of right now. We're probably not going to know until much closer to lock, but for right now, I'm assuming McCaffrey is out. Now, let's move on to the captains. This is going to look a lot different than the FanDuel video looked. Right out of the gate, we've got a primary captain option, and it is not particularly close in my opinion. At $13,200 for a captain salary, Mike Davis is way too cheap on DK, especially if McCaffrey is out. He shows up in the optimal lineup at captain 20% of the time. He is simply too cheap. He's got the highest projection on the slate for me right now. I see no reason that Mike Davis isn't the primary captain option. Now, if you are looking to get a little bit different, I would actually go down in salary a bit. $12,300 at the captain spot. Give me DJ Moore. He shows up in the optimal lineup 15% of the time. These are the two of the kind of three guys north of 10%. Calvin Ridley just barely gets there at 10.6, but Davis and Moore way ahead of the pack. Calvin Ridley is jammed up in a group of Ridley, Bridgewater, Julio, and Robbie Anderson, all in the 8 to 10 range. I have a hard time seeing who's better, who's worse there. What you're going to want to do is see the public ownership, grab the guy that's least owned, try to have a little bit less of the guy that's most owned, but they all look the same, so to speak. The one thing I know that I don't want to do, that's pay up $16,500 at the captain spot for Matt Ryan. That's just too much salary. What I want you to do is stick to Mike Davis and DJ Moore, the two primary captain options for tonight's slate. Now, as we head to utility, that's where I think it opens up a little bit more for someone like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is $11,000 in the utility spot, but if you're going to Mike Davis or DJ Moore at captain, you have a ton of salary left over. Now, I prefer Teddy Bridgewater to Matt Ryan. Bridgewater, $400 cheaper. I have him with a higher projection as well. Shows up in the optimal utility spot 47% of the time. That's 10% higher than Ryan. But either way, you should be looking at both quarterbacks at the utility just because of how easy it is to save money at captain. After that, you're working your way down to my favorite utility play, Mike Davis. $8,800, shows up in the optimal 54% of the time. Mike Davis is just in the optimal lineup, whether it's in the captain spot or the utility spot. 74% of the time. Really hard to ignore him here. His floor is just so high that barring injury, I'd be shocked if he's not in the optimal. The next closest guy to Mike Davis at utility is Bridgewater. Then it's DJ Moore. So we're looking at a very big, it's a pretty tight core around Mike Davis and DJ Moore. Let's be clear here. Then we get into this big group of guys at the, call it like 25 to 30% range. Ridley, Julio, Gurley, Samuel, Gage, Sly, Koo. All of these guys look really, really similar for tonight's slate. Scrolling over a little bit on my sheet so I could read it a little bit better. All those guys are showing up about 20%, 25 to 30% of the time. You really need to pay close attention to ownership there, but if I'm trying to separate out the pack, if I need to save some salary, you could actually go all the way down to 2,200 and go to Brian Hill. It's not going to be the most fun play in the world, and because you can save so much salary at captain, I don't think it's super necessary. So I'm going to go Koo over Sly if I'm looking for a kicker. I'm going to go Samuel over Gage if I'm just trying to pick out a wide receiver. If I'm going all the way up to Falcons wide receivers and trying to spend a little bit of money, I'm going to go to Ridley over Julio, although it's close. All of these things will come down to public ownership. If Ridley is significantly more owned than Jones, then I like Jones. They're too close. If Koo is significantly more owned than Joey Sly, then I just like Sly. It's really easy to do that in a GPP when all of these guys look super similar from an odds of being in the optimal basis. Now, I say it every week, it's really hard to talk about fades before we have public ownership, but for right now, I can take a couple guesses. I assume Matt Ryan picks up a little bit more ownership in the captain spot than I have him projected for. I'll happily skip out on that. I think Todd Gurley is going to go over-owned. He only shows up in the optimal captain spot 3.5% of the time. I expect that number to be higher in ownership. I also don't really like him all that much in utility, but he fits a little bit better, shows up in the optimal 27.5% of the time. Hayden Hurst is the guy that I'm least interested in. He's 9,600 in the captain, 6,400 in utility. I think he only gets there about 15% of the time. I assume his ownership comes in higher than that. I'm guessing somewhere in the low 20s, at which point I will have a very minimal amount of Hayden Hurst. If I'm right, Hayden Hurst is the fade that I'm looking at more than anybody else on the slate. All right, folks, that will do it. Those are my DraftKings Showdown plays for tonight's game between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. One last call. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get the updates tonight at 7 p.m. And let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite captains and utility plays. I'm telling you guys, it's Mike Davis at captain tonight, barring McCaffrey coming back. There should be a link somewhere around here for a FanDuel video. Click that so you can get content for both sites. I won't have single game stuff on Sunday because I'm on the early show Sunday morning. Tune into that, myself, Adam Scher, breaking down our strategies for week 8 in the NFL. I'm almost positive it's week 8. If it's not week 8, just replace week 8 with whatever week it's supposed to be. Good luck tonight, guys. I'll talk to you guys again on Sunday morning.